Hey y'all, so I want to get on here and share some thoughts, but I think what might have happened to Amy Lynn Bradley, March 23rd, 24th, 1998, on the Rhapsody of the Seas cruise ship in Curacao. So if you looked at anything concerning, right now I'm watching the Show Me thing, World Heritage thing. I just get curious sometime of the ships that come through there and watching marine traffic and all that fun stuff. So sometimes I kind of get curious of what kind of ships get through there and all that stuff. I like that. For some reason or other, ever since I started looking at this, and I've shared this with Brad and all that stuff, I like to watch ships come in and all that fun stuff. I can't help it. It's just fun. But anyway, I'm just looking and seeing what's going on here. Marine traffic, global ship tracking. I don't know why it's not doing what I want as far as the ships go. So I'll have to look one up. See, let's look up vessels, fleets, notes, companies. Let's look up. I'm kind of curious about Rhapsody. I think it's off Cosmo. And I said in my last video, well, I probably said it in my TikTok, that Rhapsody of the Seas is going to be heading back down in that direction, but not really to Curacao. Whether it goes to Aruba, I don't know, but it's definitely not going to go to Curacao for quite a while. And I don't know why I get so interested in the Rhapsody of the Seas, but mostly I guess because it's just I'm kind of curious. It's not the captain of the ship. It was, I don't know who the captain of the ship is now, but it's all the things that ship has been going through. It used to be the largest cruise ship and everything. Now it's dwarfed, of course. One of the largest cruise ships, but now it's not. But anyway, I just have an interest, I guess. I just can't break myself from that. And my biggest thing is, like I said, I get on here and I watch marine traffic. I hadn't done that in months. It's been months since I've done that. You hate Snickers? I love Snickers. What are you talking about? Snickers are good. I love Snickers. What are you saying? Sakuna. But like right now I'm on this thing with marine traffic and it's showing the what's going on here and the ships, and I'll tell you what, there are a bunch of ships. You wouldn't think so if you go out there and look on the water and you see nothing on the water. You get on this marine trafficker, boy, you see all kind of little arrows and stuff pointing in one direction or another. So there are a lot of ships on the water that you just don't see, even if you're on the water. And between the North Atlantic, it's full of ships.
For 5 years, the Armed Forces Vacation Club has helped military and veteran families make memories.
And also looking at the thing in Curacao here, there's not any ships that are coming in directly to show you. So I'm going to go back to Curacao. I think right when I first got on this thing. Oh, whatever. What do I care about Diddy? He's in jail. He shouldn't have done what he did. But yeah, I'm gonna share some thoughts with you. Whoever might want to watch this, and I'll probably link this to my TikTok because I don't want it to be like excessively long. on TikTok, but I'll just post a link. What I do is I'll post a short video on TikTok, and I'll make this link on it. But anyway, what I think would happen with Amy is this, and I don't mean any disparaging comment or whatever toward the Bradley family or what have you, because I think they're really nice, sweet, loving, kind, generous people. So whatever I say is not going to be something that's really mean or outrageous toward them, like a lot of people have said and done. Did you know there's a San Juan in Curacao? How about that? But anyway, I guess what I really want to try to say is that my first thoughts on this, whenever I first watched the show and got to really understand it, you have a syndrome. I think we all have syndromes. I think we all do. But my first thoughts on watching this was that, well, later on it kind of developed. It was just a thought, and like I said, whatever I'm saying is nothing toward the Bradley family or whatever. But the first thought that crossed my head was, did Brad do something to Amy that caused her not to want to go and get some sleep? Or, because the night before they were in the same bed, they were sleeping on the same pull-out sofa couch, brother and sister. That wasn't a big thing. I mean, me and my sister slept together before, as far as just sleeping on the bed with kids, that kind of thing happens. But two grown adults, where else are they going to sleep, and that's one of the things that kind of jumped out at me. But at the same time, I'm saying to myself, well, this is brother and sister, this is mom and dad. Of course there's nothing going to be like that going on there, because Brad isn't like that with his sister. He loves his sister, and I get the thing with the big sister kind of deal, he probably gave her way more room than she really wanted and everything. I don't think there was anything uncomfortable or unnatural about it. Maybe to some people they might think, well, brothers and sisters in their 20s shouldn't be sleeping together on the same bed. Well, that may be the case, but where else are they going to sleep? Well, the brother can sleep on the floor. Where is he going to sleep on the floor? Because if you think about the cabin, the J3 cabin of the on the 8th deck of the Rhapsody of the Seas, 8564, even though it's big enough to hold 4 people maybe, where would they actually sleep and be comfortable, And I'm pretty sure that it's like when you go fall asleep on a couch or something like that, you're sleeping together if you're on the couch, and stuff like that, but you're not stretched out or whatever. And I think it's the same with Amy and Brad, that they both, they didn't get in the night clothes or anything. They kind of slept in their own shorts and stuff like that, and maybe in the morning they got up and they refreshed and whatever, on the first couple nights that they were on the trip, whenever they left San Juan, or not, was it San Juan? Yeah. When they left, I think they got a flight out to San Juan or something like that. I forgot exactly how that happened. And they met their mom and dad there, and they got on the ship with their mom and dad, and then they went to Aruba, and then they did stuff at Aruba and all that, and they had fun. They almost got lost and stuff, they said. And I asked Brad several times, well, where in Aruba would y'all go? Where in the world did you get lost? Because if you look at the beaches and everything to the north, let's see here, to the north, to the southerly part of the island is neighborhoods. But when you get down to the north part, well, I don't know what you call it, the north, northwest part of the island is full of neighborhoods, and then when you get down lower, about the middle part of the island, Aruba, it's all desert looking. Then down toward the tip next to St. Nicholas, it kind of goes back into neighborhoods again. So, where in the world would you go into a desert, you know? And so, anyway, and also Orange's Head, you got you got the Free Winds that's docked over there. That's that Sea Org ship and everything. This cult ship or whatever. And right before the first of the year, they were in Colombia for what? I have no idea, but they were there. And usually they go back and forth between Aruba and Curacao. Aruba and Curacao. That's all they do. And but anyway, my thoughts were, why are two grown adults sleeping together? But then I kind of thought it through. Well, you know, it's not hurting nothing. They're both sleeping in their own clothes and stuff. So they grew up together, and so they you know, there was none of that stuff there. Only other people who want to think perverted and weird things would think, well, maybe Brad did something to grope his sister the night before, and she kind of just played it off. But at the same time, too, she just didn't want to get back in the bed with Brad again because she didn't want that to happen again. I heard some people say that kind of stuff before. So I'm like, well, does that mean it actually happened? No, because that can't be proved. It can't be said, and nobody can prove it. So there's no reason to think that it did happen unless Brad says it happened, and Brad evidently is not going to go and say that because it evidently didn't happen. That's to say that it could have happened, that it might have happened. Of course, maybe, but Brad is not leading into that. He's not saying that you know, anything about it, and of course, the mom and dad, Ron and Iva, can't say anything about it because they're not going to speak on things like that because they don't know, they weren't there. So, I mean, as far as, you know, in that area, in that same bed. And of course, we know Amy is not going to say anything on it because she's been missing in almost 28 years. But anybody can say anything like that to kind of cause a lot of confusion, a lot of dissension, and a lot of stirring up of bull crap, just to cause problems. And I've seen some people already do that same thing. They just want to cause problems, you know. And another thought that I had too is that, well, what if Amy, and this is possible, way more possible than incest between siblings, and like I said, I don't think that even happened. I'm just saying the other people can say that it might have happened, the incest between brother and sister, or attempted on Brad's part, or what have you. And that, like I said, that might have been why Amy didn't want to go back to bed, and that might have could have been why it led to Amy leaving, and you know, what have you, because of something that Brad might have done. You know, let's just look at it like this. Maybe before I go to my other thought, anything like that could happen. A young man, 21 years old. I'm going to be realistic about it. I'm not saying it happened. I'm not saying it for whatever reason. I am not saying that happened, but it could happen. And I'm not going to suppose that Brad's a bad guy because I don't think he is. But other people, like I said on Reddit, will say that. I'm just saying that some people could draw the conclusion in their mind because Brad's 21 years old, a young man, or however, if he's 21, 22, I don't know, sleeping in the same bed with his sister, right? And so they had at least 2 days whenever they left. They had one night, then the second night, and then it was the third night that were they, you know, and of course Brad and Amy were on the balcony and everything. He says, hey, comes early in the morning, 6 o'clock comes early, I'm going to go ahead and go to bed. You come? I know I'm going to go out here, stay out here. I don't want to stay up in that cabin right now. I don't get some fresh air. I just don't feel good. So anybody can conclude, oh, well, maybe he did something to her. He groped her, and she's just trying to play it off because, you know, she knows that that's how young men act and everything, and what have you. It could have been a situation where Brad's laying in the bed and he's doing stuff and he's groping himself and stuff like that, and he might have done something accidentally to his sister, not thinking because he was sleeping. But did it actually happen? Nobody knows, and nobody will know. Has it never ever happened in all the world? I bet you it has, way more times than we can count or even think or even imagine. A sibling is laying in the bed with their other sibling, a brother and sister maybe, and next thing you know, they're having a one of those moments while they sleep, and those kind of things can happen. I bet you thousands of times it's happened. Did it happen between Amy and Brad? Who knows? Never, probably. And I'm sure Brad could say never, ever, never, and I would believe him because unless something showed me otherwise, I'd believe him because why? Why? Damn, buddy, get the hell out of me. These damn commercials keep going on. Get over here. Shut up. There we go. Somebody driving a motorcycle on the pontoon on a swinging bridge. But anyway, like I said, before I get into the other thought, I'm not saying that can happen or wouldn't happen. I'm just saying it's not practically that it would happen. It's a probability anything like that can happen, but is it practical or something that Brad, I think, would have done? Because you would see some kind of tension there. Based on the information of his mom and dad and everything else, you would see it in his eyes. I think that Brad could feel like, well, there was some tension between me and my sister, or me and my sister didn't get along, whatever, this and the other. You would know, because unless they both were consensual about it, which that's sick, incest between brother and sister. That's sick. And like me, I'm same age as Brad is over my sister, as he is, the lesser. My sister and I, we've fell asleep on a couch before and everything, and we're in our 20s and 30s. And like, hey, move over, get over. I'm going to bed. You gotta move because I'm going to bed. Like, oh, okay, whatever. Stuff like that. I went to her house and we both fell asleep on a couch, and she's over there nudging me. She goes, move over, Okay, well, I'll get over here in a chair. It's the respect between siblings, because even my sister was a mother at the time, so But like I said, I'm not saying that anything like that happened. I'm not suggesting that anything like that happened. But people can draw that conclusion in their mind. Oh, what if Amy and Brad had incest? Or what if Brad was groping on her in the middle of his sleep? Or what have you, because guys have hormones. And like Ron, I'm sure, with his wife and everything, he has hormones. But he's going to control himself on the trip. But Brad, being a younger man, maybe is kind of harder. I don't know. But who knows? Who's to say that he didn't find him a woman out there whenever they were on the deck, and did something with her? You never know. And so there might be little Braddies around that he's not going to say anything about. But did that happen? Evidently not, because he probably wouldn't have been on a lot of these podcasts or things like that, and then somebody said, oh, you got a daughter out there, oh, you got a son out there that you never met for the past 28 years, and that you don't know of, and surprise his wife. Feel pretty sure nothing like that happened. It's with Amy too, that she might have been groped or what have you by him when he was sleeping, whenever both sleeping on that sofa, pull-out sofa, in the suite. And some people, like I said, they can make conclusions, and they say, oh, that's what happened. He groped her, he did this, and that's why she didn't want to come in, because he or she was afraid she was going to get groped again or messed with, or he wanted to do incestual things to her. That's why she ran away. Blame it all on Brad, pretty much. That's what people want to do. It's Brad's fault. Brad did it, or it's Ron's fault. Ron did it somehow or another. It's like with I'm gonna get to this on here in just a minute. It's like with Yellow saying, my father got me to come on this trip because he found out I was gay, and he said, "Why you smoking so much? Why? I just boy for Grenada, this, that, and that, blah blah blah, and I don't know do these things, stuff like that. Why you smoking so much? My dad found out I was gay, and oh, what a lovely couple. Let me show you this. My dad found out I was gay, so he made me come on this trip, stuff like that. That's a bunch of bull. Look at these couple. That's so cute. Come on, get on back down there, camera. Come on, get down, get down, get down, get down. There we go. Zoom out. But again, I'm not suggesting that happened, and I would not suggest, I would not believe that happened unless I was led to believe it, unless things showed me that happened concerning Brad and Amy, as far as incest goes, as far as him possibly groping her, maybe even accidentally. He wasn't thinking in his sleep or something like that. Who knows if that actually really happened and that's not come to light. You know what I'm saying? So nobody actually really knows that, because the only person would know that was Amy and Brad. They're like, oops, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I did this to my sister, or try to grope my sister. She might have woke up. There's always that possibility that it kind of something like that. It could have happened, and Brad. Oh, come on. Could have woke up, Brad. What are you doing? Stop. Quit touching me. Something like that. You never know. It's one of those things that we'll never know, and we don't need to know, and we shouldn't assume that it did happen. But I know I keep going on and on about it, but that's why I think I've seen somebody say something about that they were the two. He was committing incest against his sister, even though she was the oldest and stuff like that. She seemed to be the maturest or whatever, or something. I don't know, but I thought I saw that on Reddit one time. Something along those lines. I'm like, come on, why in the world would you? I didn't really entertain all that. I didn't even. No, I cannot say your name. I didn't even entertain all that stuff. I didn't even consider it to even have happened, because why would it? Why would he do that to his own sister? Or because even if he did, even if he wasn't even thinking about it while he was sleeping, that doesn't mean it would happen. That doesn't mean he would do it. But if he did, then I'm sure Amy, hey, cut it out, something, I don't know. And boys are boys, so to speak. And boys that age, especially, it doesn't matter if their own sister's in the bed with him, they still got hormones, and so but in this case, realizing it was his sister, who he had a great relationship with, whom he loved dearly. And some people would kind of draw out that thing with them taking pictures together, after that formal dinner that they had, them taking pictures together. Some people would say, oh wow, that was really perverted, something like that. That was really strange. That was really weird. That's not something that brothers and sisters always do. I have to agree, or even sleep in the same bed together. But like I said, in this case, they were dressed. They didn't take the clothes off. Amy had a bodysuit on, went from her body down to her crotch area, and had blue shorts on, and had a yellow shirt on, and then later on took it off, and of course went out the door. She took it off several times when she was dancing with Yellow and stuff. But like I said, Yellow was suggesting that the reason why they got on that trip, reason why Amy was taken on that trip, is because her daddy found out she was gay 23-year-old girl, had her own place, had her own car, had her own expenses, own finances, and about to have her own job. 23 years old. Okay, so you know that was a bunch of bull. You know he's lying about something. And here's the other scenario I had, or thought that I had on that. And it's not to make Amy look bad, just like it wasn't to make Brad look bad. All right. My thing is, I thought I heard on there, and I'll have to watch the video again. I might watch the video again tonight. My thing is, I thought I heard Amy call Yellow creepy, or a creep. Oh yeah, he's a creep. Because I thought I heard Brad say something other. They were talking about Yellow and how he got really close and stuff and everything, and that he was a creep. Or that might be the weird guy that asked her about going off into the club the night before and everything. That could have been it then. It was like, they were taking really care of Amy and everything, real good care of Amy, and they asked her about going to the club. And that's the one, what's her name, Natalie Holloway disappeared in. The same club, CC's or Coco's, what do you call it? A club in Aruba. That's the same one she disappeared in. Oh, that's so cute. A couple walking together. I think it's the same couple. And they're walking together. It's so nice. It's so cute to see things like that. But anyway, with all that being said, then you get to the thing. Like I said, it was. If that were anything about Yellow, why in the world? My thing is, why in the world is Amy allowing him to grope her? Because clear evidence shows on Chris Stenwick's video coverage, or whatever it was, or whatever his name is. Video shows it that Yellow was doing things with her, so he cannot deny any more of that, because it has him on camera, it has him on film of him dancing with Amy, groping her, pretty much groping her. And whether she pushes his hand down or whatever, he's got his hands around Amy and he's backgrounding her pretty much. You know what I'm saying? So if she thinks he's a creep, if she thinks he's this or that or what have you, why in the world is she dancing? Why in the world does she allow herself to get taken advantage of that way? If I were Brad, and I'm not saying that he should have done this, I'm not criticizing because he didn't. Look, bud, get your hands off my sister. Amy would have said, hey, Brad, that's enough. I'll take care of my own shit. Don't worry about it. Or something like that. But still, if anybody touches my sister, and even that's why I'm kind of interested in, if that was your sister, and like I said, it's nothing against Brad, it's nothing against whoever, just saying to why he didn't. And Brad's even said himself, well, I should have did this, I should have did that. Of course, hindsight's 20/20. We all see things differently, even in this case almost 28 years ago. And so I'm thinking to myself, well, why didn't you just go over there and smack him upside his bald freaking head, and say, get your hands off my sister? But he was dancing with girls. He was doing other things before all that. They were doing the limbo thing and all that, and that's before, I don't know whether that was at 12 or whatever. They were leaving Aruba at 12 o'clock, and they were going to Curacao. So they were leaving that area. And as far as where the cruise ships go, I don't even know. I can look it up though. Kind of get an idea of where they go. I don't think Aruba has like a protocol thing, or like Curacao does. You can go to Curacao and see where all the ships go. So I'm trying to think to myself where all the ships go. But I'm going to get to what I'm trying to say here in just a minute. I promise. Because we're 30 minutes into this. Um, I don't know whether it's the north side of the island or what have you. Where in the world is the beach? I'll just as well go ahead and assume that if it's in Aruba, that it's going to be over there next to the Free Winds. And the Free Winds is always docking. Yeah, it is. It's right there, right down from the Free Winds. So it's going to be Paradin Bay. And not far from there is a airport, Queen Beatrix International Airport. Let's see here. National Archaeological Museum, Aruba. That's not far from where they dock at and everything. As far as to how many ships come there, I don't know. Evidently, there are no ships there, no cruise ships there right now that I can see of. Only the Free Winds is there, and then the little tugboats and stuff and all that and other. And well, wait a minute. Oh, okay. There's a smaller boat. Yeah, that's it. There are hardly any cruise ships, if anything rather, that are in. There's no cruise ships that I can see of that are in Whiskey Port. I thought, okay, that are in Aruba. None. El Nino rather, not Nino, but Nino. Okay. So, back to what I was saying though. I kind of lost my train of thought. But there are no ships in Aruba as far as that goes and everything. So they went to Aruba from San Juan. So they got on the ship, what, the 19th or 20th or whatever, 20th maybe. They got on the ship in San Juaning, Puerto Rico. They flew from Florida to San Juan. Well, actually, I think what it is, yeah. They took Richmond, a flight to Richmond, and they went to Florida, and they took a connecting flight and flew to San Juan, or San Juan. And then from there, they met up with mom and dad, or mom and dad come and got them from the airport at San Juan, and then they got on the boat together, ship, boat, whatever, and then they went to Aruba. Let's see what this is doing. Oh, cool. There's a ship going into Aruba. But I want to see, I like watching it go into the bay, or the Curacao Bay, the way those things cut through, because there's video feed. I don't think there's any video feed for Aruba. I like there's a Curacao. But anyway, my whole thing is what I guess I was getting at. It was because she had a problem somewhat with her dad. That's what they're saying. That's what Yellow's saying. Yellow's saying, all her father, she telling me, she telling what's his name, Jeremy West, to do Crime Watch, whatever his name is. He does kind of YouTube. I forgot, Crimes Weekly, whatever you call it. She telling me her dad, she's a big smoker. She's smoking around. I said, why you smoking so much? Why smoke? I'm a boy for Clarinette. I don't understand all this. Why smoke so much? And she was like, oh, my dad found out I was gay, so he made me come on this trip. No, again, Amy is 23 years old at the time, has her own job, has her own apartment. So why in the world does she need to be accountable to her father about her lifestyle and the things she does? Her father. So you, like I said, you know he was freaking lying like through his freaking teeth when you hear that interview with Yellow. You know he was lying. So something is fishy there. Unless, and this is my other thought I was going to, unless he's covering up something for the sake of Amy, but he's not telling anybody because he doesn't, because he agreed to say, hey, look, I'll cover for you, I'll say something to, cover for you, maybe Amy, well, not so much he's covering for her and for himself, rather, let's just say it like that, because maybe he did something with Amy that he wasn't supposed to do, because based on what he was doing with Amy, as we've seen on the video, and I'm not saying Amy's wrong, but it's way more believable than to say that her own brother had some kind of incestual feelings or thoughts or groping of her a couple nights before, or any time or whatever, and to suggest that her brother made her feel uncomfortable, so she didn't want to come back to bed or anything, and they got to a point where she really felt uncomfortable. And some people say, well, it made her jump off the balcony. It made her jump because of what her brother did to her, or something like that. Not to say that even anybody's ever said that. I never heard that part, but I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it a bit. Oh, this stupid bullshit, something like that come out of their mouths, excuse my language, but that's what it is. To suggest that one, Brad would grope her and do this and that and the other, that's not to say it can't happen or wouldn't happen or didn't happen, but I mean, it just, you could see it in Brad's face. I think the more times he got on there, the more times he showed his love for his sister. Just because they were extremely close doesn't mean anything like that happened. Could it have happened? Sure. Sure it could. Has it ever happened? I bet you it has. But I think the Bradleys, the mom and dad, were pretty confident enough to knowing that the relationship between their daughter and son would never ever get to a point where it was of incest or whatever. They evidently trusted the kids explicitly because, hey, they smoked, they drank, they stayed out. Of course, the parents worried. I worry about my son all the time. He's 23 years old. I worry about him all the time because he's my son, because he's my child. He's from my body. And so naturally, Ron's going to do the same thing. He's going to worry about his son and his daughter. And that's what he did. He went downstairs and said, hey, it's getting kind of late. Don't y'all think I might need to turn in? Why? And it's like, well, I know you go to bed. You quit playing around, go to bed. No. Well, it's because, we're going to have fun tomorrow. We're going to do things together tomorrow. Y'all get some sleep so we can have fun together. That's pretty much what it is. Well, we can spend time as a family. Kids, and then Brad's like, yeah, Ray, you're right, Dad. Probably. And next thing you know, he's like, tells Amy, hey, I'm going to bed. And Amy follows along later. Brad gets there at 3:30 something other in the room, keys in with his key card, and then here comes Yellow, same time key in his room, and at the same time Brad does, and here comes Amy, at the same time. Yellow, evidently, I mean, if you think about it though, if Amy went with Yellow, which I doubt very seriously, she would take longer to get back up because, I mean, he's in the bottom of the ship, of the boat, of the Rhapsody of the Seas. So he gets there, 3:35, something like that, in his room, to key in. Amy comes about, did it say 10 minutes or something like that? I can't remember. But, I mean, I can see the time difference in there. You know what I mean? I can see the time. If she possibly went with him to his room or what have you, and said goodnight. I don't know what the world that was. And said goodnight or what have you. Hey, I had fun and everything. Or maybe said, can you meet me certain place? I'll meet you by the elevators before 6, and then we can go get a drink together, something like that. Maybe that's what happened. Or maybe she went with him halfway, something maybe into the centrum, the middle of the ship, and he said, "Well, I got to go. I'll see you later." And are you, if you want, I'll meet you, not far from your room, and we can go up to the lounge to get us a drink. That could have happened. That's possible. That's feasible. I mean, that possibly with him groping her and stuff like that. But like I'm saying, if he calls her, if shut up. If she's calling him a creep, cringy, whatever in this modern day, as they say, then why is she letting him grope all over him? Her. Why is she letting him do that? Don't know, right? I have no idea. So, with that being said, she drank and everything. It's not like she still had those thoughts toward Yellow. You know what I mean? It's not like, okay, he's such a bad person, he's such a bad guy, what have you, blah, 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 blah. It didn't seem like she had those thoughts towards him. It seemed like, well, I didn't really like him at first, but I kind of got to know him, and even though he's kind of wild acting and stuff like that, I had a good, the way, in other words, the way it looks, she looked like she had a good time with him and everything, and unless I go back over the few interviews that I've seen, quite a few interviews that I've seen with Brad, to hear him say something about what Amy said about Yellow, then that would probably change my mind. But as far as I know, it wasn't so much Yellow about giving her the creeps. It was about the people the night before while they were at the dinner party, the formal wear and everything. But I could be mistaken. That was saying that gave her the creeps. Her mom was like, that dude is like, why is he staring at you like that? And I don't know, that's creepy, and something like that. It could have been very well too about Yellow, but if that were the case, why did Yellow, again, why didn't she allow Yellow to do that with her? Why did she allow Yellow? That was another thing I was thinking about from the first time I saw it. If Yellow's such a bad guy, why is he over there groping against her? Why is she letting that happen if she talks crap about him whenever they go to the balcony, her and Brad, and says, I didn't like him very much or something like that. Then why did you let his hands get all over you, Amy? And stuff like that. That's what I'm thinking. I'm sure Brad saw it. I'm sure he witnessed it. But like I said, if I was her freaking brother, it was just me, and ain't nothing against Brad. If it was just me, I'd be like, hey, take your hands off my sister, or I'll flatten your ass. That's what I would have done. And I don't care if my sister is 51 years old. She is. She's 51 years old, same age as Amy. I would have like, I don't care if she was married or not. You don't put your hands on my sister. And I don't care if my sister would be inviting to it. I've done that a couple times. We went out to a bar one time, and somebody was like, he was kind of like, hey. It's like, oh, would you stop? He's all right. And the dude was looking at me like he wanted to get like, hey, you just, well, this your boy? No, this is our brother. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm not saying that Brad did anything wrong there, or he didn't do anything right. I'm just saying that would have been me. Maybe their trust, the way they, the feelings and affections that they had toward one another, Brad knew when he can step in on things and whenever he didn't have to on others. Some things he could have stepped in on, other things he needed to just leave alone. And so maybe my filter on that concerning my sister is not the same as his, So anyway, I don't care how much older she is than me. My sister can be older than me. I don't care. But I'm the oldest, and so I get really offensive. I mean, that hadn't happened for a very long time, but I still feel the same way even in our age right now, and especially if she didn't exactly welcome it at first. But anyway, when it comes to that part of it, what I was talking about there, my thing is, okay, Yellow's groping on her, which, some people say, oh, no, he's not really doing that. He's just got his hands in certain places. Well, if she has to move his hands, and if he has to hold on to her and everything and dance behind her, what else do you think he's doing with that thing between his darn legs? What else is he doing? What else is going up in his mind? Or what else is he trying to do to her to kind of give her the impression, hey, we need to get out of here and let's go do something together. You know what I mean? So I think she kind of fell. I think people need to really look at that and say, well, could that determine the outcome as to what Amy did whenever she left the room? Would that have something to do with what Amy did or would do later on? And I don't think a lot of people are thinking that through, really, because Amy wasn't perfect at that time. She was just a person. She was just a young lady. Brad wasn't either. I mean, he seemed to be getting the girls, even though the dude's got like earrings above ears. And Brad was like, oh my gosh, dude. Like, is that what they really did in the 90s? Because I don't remember all that, the double earrings, but they did some crazy stuff in the 90s, and as far as I remember. But I didn't know it was double earrings for guys. I didn't see a lot of that where I come from. But again, as far as Brad maybe of kind of making her feel uncomfortable on the couch sofa that night or a previous night or night before that, I don't know. I don't think so. Why would it? Could that kind of possibly happen? Yeah, of course it could. That can happen with any brother and sister. But doesn't mean it did. But with the thing with Yellow groping her and doing all that stuff, which leads me to think, okay, well, he's covering something up. He has to be covering something up. Whenever he did that interview with that fella, True Crimes Weekly fella, he's covering something up, and you can tell he's covering something up. But because why in the world would her dad have to? Why would in the world would he say that about her father? Oh, my dad, made me come. He's an insurance agent. What does that got anything to do with anything? He's an insurance agent. That's why I'm smoking a lot, because he's an insurance agent, and he found out I was gay, so he made me come on a trip. He's an insurance agent. What does that got anything to do with anything? Because I'm gay, I got to come out on a trip. What does her being gay have to be on a trip for? That just don't make sense. Everything he said did not make sense. So that tells me, it leads me to think he's covering up something for her and for himself, and not that somebody would take her off that ship so much. It was that somebody did something with her or to her that maybe logically she would feel ashamed about it later on, because all that evidence shows me is that Yellow is groping her. Chris Fenwick was showing it on camera. It was on camera. He was groping her. Whether you call it groping or not, the dude had his hands on her. What's this dude doing? Oh my gosh. Hang on 1 second. Let me show you how it's going. These people are on the darn bridge dancing. Well, they were. Okay. Sorry. I had to do a little intermission there. But the dude has his hands on Amy. And Amy don't really mind it that much. Okay? He doesn't mind it that much. She doesn't mind it that much. She might get a little too close in some places. She pushes the hand down or whatever around or what have you. But the dude is on her backside, and she allowed it. Amy is allowing him to get really close to her. And, and there was a part where he's doing his little jig thing, and she's over here doing her jig thing. She has her hand on her chest. Seems like to me, okay, I'm protecting myself. This is, my elbow means you don't come any further than this. And then she puts her elbow down. She seems to have invited him to say, okay, well, you passed the test. I'll let you get in closer. And then the dude's getting behind her. He's like, he's doing all kind of cheesing and stuff. And you see it. Chris Fenwick's video shows it. So I don't, there's a possibility that they're not thinking of something here. Instead of calling Yellow the bad guy, which I think he's a bad in a lot of other things, Oh, okay, no problem, man. But I was just sharing what I thought would happen, my scenarios, because I remember one time thinking that maybe Brad not really that he did, but I remember somebody saying it, and I read it, that maybe Brad was trying to commit incest with Amy or something. That's why Amy didn't want to come to bed that night and everything, because it's a possibility that that kind of thing happens between siblings, accidental, but I don't think it did with them, because they're bond together, because somebody could say, well, they took pictures together. How perverted was that? They took pictures together. Brad has his arm all wrapped around Amy and everything. There's other pictures. Brad is all wrapped around her. They're all buddy, and stuff like that. What does that mean? So people could take that and misinterpret that as incest, or between the two, or from his part. And then the thing with Yellow and everything, him lying about she was smoking a lot and everything, because the reason why she was smoking, because her father found out that she was gay, and so it made her come on the cruise trip. On the cruise? What does that have to do with the price of beans in China? That has nothing to do with it, nothing whatsoever. That's what I was trying to say. But so, and then of course now, the most obvious evidence is that Amy allowed Yellow to get behind her, to put his hands on her. Again, I would have flipped my shit. Excuse my language. I would have flipped my crap if anybody would have laid their hands on my sister. I don't care if she invited it. I don't care if she engaged it. I don't care if she enticed him to do it. I would flip. Nobody puts their hands on my sister unless that person, I know them right from the beginning. And Yellow's over there, got his mouth all open and cheesing and everything. And so he's like, oh, I finally got me one. I finally got me some booty calling. I finally got something that I can probably mess with or do something with now. Which leads me to think this, y'all, that eventually Amy felt bad about it. Amy felt pretty darn bad about her actions with Yellow. She felt dirty. She felt raunchy. What have you, and so whenever it came to going to bed that night or that morning, early that morning, 3:45, whatever it was, whenever they got back into the cabin, Mom and Dad and stuff, because as you see, they said, if you read it in the thing, the Richmond thing, the light was left on, and Ron had asked her to turn the light off, and she was smoking a cigarette as she was going out, and her and Brad went on the balcony and everything. So, I mean, not that that has anything to do with anything, but her and Brad were on the balcony and everything, and the next thing you know, they were talking, and Brad says, well, they were talking about all kind of things, and like I said, if they were talking crap about Yellow, after all that time, from almost 3.5 hours, he was sitting there, or whatever, 2.5, whatever, not sitting, but he was there with her dancing. He was pretty much putting his hands all over her, and everything. Of course, I think there's a part to where he said that, they did a set, and they came back up at 1 o'clock, and they had to be out of there because of the passengers. That's what he was saying. That's what Yellow was saying. They had to be out of there and stuff. They had to get. Then he had to go. But yet it shows him dancing with her well into the morning hours. So he's lying about that. And if he would have saw that, he probably, back that up. Oh, that was 1 o'clock. Oh, it wasn't. Chris Fenwick can prove that. But he should have watched that video first before he started saying anything. That way he could have matched his story up, So anyway, that's probably what happened. She felt bad about it. She didn't feel right. So when it came to her going to bed that night, she was like, I'm just going to sit out here. I don't want to be up in that cabin and everything. And she probably felt dirty. She probably felt disgusting, or either that, or either she might have done something with him that she shouldn't have done. Whether they had enough time to do that, I don't know. And I'm not saying that that did happen, but it's all just like brothers and sisters can do weird things together. That's always a probability. It's always a possibility. But I don't think that would have happened between Brad and his sister. Of course not. But that's not to say that it doesn't or hasn't happened between brothers and sisters. That's all I'm saying. And like I said, if I say anything in this video that's not against them, it's always trying to be for them. But I do think that Amy really should not have let Yellow even touch her. Especially if Tom is your boyfriend, or whatever, or if Lori or Molly or whoever is your girlfriend or whatever, or Tom is your boyfriend, then yeah, you shouldn't have let somebody touch you, because you should have stayed committed. And that watch she had on her wrist, I think she was wearing that watch, that Dos Equis watch that he gave her whenever they worked at the restaurant together, should have been proven and say, hey, I got somebody in my life. I don't need this dude dancing behind me, groping me, hanging on to me like that. He needs to stop. She should have put a stop to it. But the damning proof is that she didn't, for at least a certain length of time. Okay? Because Chris Fenwick's videos tell the tale. And a lot of people don't realize that, or a lot of people not thinking about that. The evidence shows that Chris Fenwick, his videos show that he's over there, he's grinding on her, he's doing this, he's holding her hips, he's doing with and smiling like a freaking baboon in heat, And then he goes to tell the story to that fella from True Crimes Weekly, why you smoking so much, and my dad said I'm gay, my dad didn't know I'm gay and everything, so he made me come on this trip, because I'm gay. That's why you smoke so much, I'm just a simple boy from Grenada. I don't understand these things. Oh, crap. Yellow, you're hiding something. You're hiding something for her, or you're hiding something for both of you. Or for yourself, or for both of you. That's what you're doing. Amy felt bad about what you did with Yellow, I bet. I feel pretty positive about that. She allowed this dude to get up behind her and start grinding on her and doing whatever he was doing. She felt bad about it. She didn't want to get in that bed. She didn't. She wanted fresh air. She felt bad. And she probably thought, okay, well, there was a fella with a camera in there and everything, and this is going to go out on that ship. And eventually, of course, it didn't. None of that. That's probably why they erased it, because the dudes all over her and everything, and the other people were dancing like they had sense, but this Yellow dude comes and dances behind Amy like he was wanting to have some kind of orgy with her. Probably why they didn't add it in there, or probably because of the fact that she disappeared. So that's, come on, that in a way is what leads me to think. I'll get to it here. Hold on. Come on. So with that being said, people were saying, oh, Amy is this, oh, Amy's that. She got seen as Jazz. I don't believe that for a minute. Jazz and Amy are not the same person. I even had the two AIs that said, oh, she's not the same person. Oh, that's not the same person. No, that's not her. You can tell that's not Amy. And people said they saw Amy here, they saw Amy there, and this and everything. Maybe they probably saw people who looked like Amy, and maybe they knew Amy's story, or that woman in the restroom and everything, saw an Amy, or in Aruba, or whatever it was, and stuff like that. It's just possible that some people, heard Amy and everything, and knew what her story was, and they were trying to imitate her and everything, and try to get out of this situation. I don't know. Maybe that was a couple of them who might have known her. They got to meet her and stuff. She felt bad, so she couldn't go in there and face her mom and dad. After she came home for a bit. She came and rested and what have you and everything, and in the room and everything, and thought it through for the last couple hours, and just felt, hey, I just don't feel good about this. I can't live my life like this. That dude was groping me, or maybe he, like I said, he did something with her. They might have went to a bathroom and done something together. Some people think, oh no, that never happened. Amy wouldn't have done that. Amy wouldn't have done that. Well, how do you know? 100% sure. How do you know? You don't know 100% sure, do you? So, but no, Amy wouldn't have done that. That's not in her character. Well, you don't know. We don't know for that 100% sure. I want to believe that she wouldn't have done that. Her impeccable character wouldn't allow her to do that because of Tom, because of her friends, because of even her family. But maybe she wanted to sow her so-called wild oats in a way that she says, because she told with the interview with Tom, she goes, I like who I like. You'll have to get over that, Tom, because I like who I like. So that kind of gives you a hint right there. Maybe Amy possibly did something with Yellow that she felt bad about, or what have you, But like I said, as far as the incest between brother and sister, I doubt very seriously that happened. But that's what people on Reddit are trying to say. The couple that come up to me with their bull crap, I've since deleted that thing. I don't want to go back on Reddit. But she goes, I like who I like, stuff like that. So that's what I'm thinking. Maybe Amy felt bad about what had happened between her and Yellow, whether it was one way or another. And then Yellow, he later lies about it to the True Crimes Weekly fella and said, my father said I had to come on this trip because I'm gay, and that's why I'm smoking so many cigarettes. That does not make sense at all. And the thing with her, whenever he came, I think he told part of the truth, then the rest of it was a lie. And they found his testimony or whatever, the polygraph thing, and found it inconclusive. So that goes to show you right there, he wasn't telling the whole truth. He's hiding something. Whether he's hiding something for himself or for them both. Maybe that's what happened, that they had a baby together. Or something like that. He could have had a little bit of time with her where she just lost control of herself. She had some beer, she had some stuff in her. People say, well, she wouldn't have gotten that drunk. Brad suggesting she doubts for her sister she would have gotten that drunk. I think Brad's naive about a lot of things, and a lot of things he's really right about. And but I'm not going to say just because he's naive about things and he doesn't want to go approach certain things, and then he just like, especially like I was doing a thing with the AI or whatever, trying to kind of get the image of Amy to tell the story. He says that feels kind of icky to him and everything. He doesn't really like that. But in some ways he's being naive about it. Where he could approach it in a different light. But that doesn't mean that he's wrong. And that doesn't mean that that he's right either. But at the same time, it certainly doesn't mean he's wrong. And so I think that maybe he needs to approach things a little bit different in some cases, but at the same time too, he is who he is. The dude's 50-something years old, 49 years old, whatever, and he can feel what he wants. And I don't have nothing against the way he feels, because that's his sister. He knew her way better than anybody did, along with her mom and dad. So I'm not going to make assumptions and speculations. Just saying this is exactly what happened to Amy, when that might not be 100% fact, because we don't know. Amy ain't here to tell about it. She ain't here to testify about it. And if anything, it's a possibility that Amy doesn't want to come back because she felt bad about it. Other than that, she possibly is missing, or she probably likely is gone. She's not here anymore with us. But I'll tell you what, I feel in my heart, I feel in my life, I feel those emotions sometimes, especially when I get back and touch on to this story, because I just kind of feel in a way that she's still here. And it makes me really emotional. It's like I feel what the woman feels, and I just feel that she's really sad about a lot of things. It's not like that clairvoyance or whatever, but I just feel like if she's really alive, she feels really bad about things that might have happened, and if she had kids or whatever, and then that she just she didn't want her to disappoint her mom and dad with the choices that she made while she was on the ship, or whether that was the sexual advances of Yellow, and then the fulfillment of both of them together, and then later on she met somebody else while she was on the islands and had kids, she probably felt really bad about it. And when she had time to think about it, she just wanted to walk away from it and everything. Instead of coming back and everything, she tried to get a taxi ride here or there, or whatever. Some guy named Ditchy said, and this, that, and the other, and your daughter's on this island. You can believe it, And I think, and all comes down to it, she likely just ran away. But I'm just saying it's a possibility. That doesn't mean it happened that way. But it's a possibility that she just ran away because she felt bad. She felt dirty. She felt disgusting. After she stayed up on that balcony for a couple hours, she felt disgusting and she just walked away instead of coming back in there and knowing that the time was coming when her mom and dad was getting up. She might have saw her dad in the hallway somewhere, and she just kind of hid because she felt bad at what she allowed her to go through with Yellow. Because it was one thing for her to be to like both men and women. She likes who she likes. I'm not saying she's gay or bisexual. I'm just saying she said she likes who she likes. But it would be another thing for her to probably, probably the stigma of that time was, a black man and a white girl, and then at the same time different sex, liking. That wouldn't have went really well if let me just say it like this: if her father knew what was going on that night with Yellow groping her, putting his hands around her, she would have said, "Hey, Amy," he would have said, "Hey, Amy, no, we're having that. He's not touching you anymore. You cannot let him. I don't care how old you are. You're my daughter. I say he is not going to touch you again. He will not touch you again. I will flatten his ass out on the floor if he ever touches you again." My brother thing, he might have let the thing like that go. Brad is like, but still feeling his heart. He won't. I think he said something about it. But her dad, and being that she grew up in his house, he raised her. As a dad myself, if it was my daughter, I don't care how old you are. I don't care if you got your own job. I don't care where you live. I don't care if you got your own place. That dude ain't touching you because you already have a boyfriend. He's got my approval, in other words, not that dude. It wasn't because he's black or whatever, but it's a fact that, the way he acted whenever he did it, and Chris Fenwick's pictures, his videos show that. So it leads me to think, with all that evidence, she just didn't want to deal with getting out there, playing around, having fun, and that memory being on her mind. And she was still probably a little sick. She didn't get a whole lot of sleep, and that would be on her mind. It would torture her because she allowed Yellow to get so close to her like that. And she didn't, her dad would say, "Well, how did everything go last night? How did you do or whatever?" That guy, who was that? And then she would have had to explain herself. They would have had to go home together and explain. She had to explain that, and she would have felt bad about it. And she let herself get touched in that way, where she was supposed to have a boyfriend by the name of Tom, and not this dude from Grenada, whether he was black or white, but they probably would have felt differently, I guess. I don't know for sure, but who really knows whether he was black or white or not. I don't know if that would have mattered, but she probably let it go a little too far on that. And well, that's just my thoughts on it. Did it actually happen that way? I don't know. I don't think it's like I said. I don't think it's anything with the incest type of thing that the Reddit people have said, because it leans more toward Yellow trying to guard something whenever he lied to that dude on Truth Crimes Weekly about my dad, made me come on this trip because I was gay and that's why I smoked cigarettes, kind of thing. That's stupid. That's a freaking lie. He told part of the truth. He said they packed up and went. Then he took a shower and got dressed, come back out, and they danced a little bit and everything else. But he didn't say anything about him touching her. He didn't even say anything with his mouth hanging open like a freaking baboon, did he? No. He just said they danced a little bit. And then he said, "Look, I got to go," and everything. And then when he wasn't supposed to even be out there. He was supposed to be in below decks. It doesn't mean he had to be in his room, but he had to be below decks. He couldn't be in the passenger section. They couldn't be with the passengers. So that's probably what happened. Um, did it actually happen? I don't know, but I'm saying probably. It's a probability that it happened. That she felt bad about it and everything. She didn't want to have to deal with the parents too much about it and everything. She probably would have known if it upset her own dad, it would definitely upset her mom just as much, and having to explain. Well, yeah, you'll probably see on there that Yellow is groping me, and stuff like that. Whenever you see the whole the family video type of thing and the whole cruise and stuff, when you get the videos, yeah, you're going to see Yellow touching me and doing things with me that he shouldn't have done, and probably better that they didn't see it at that time. Whenever if she would have went home with him or whatever, it probably better she didn't see that they didn't see it at that time as opposed to whenever they saw it later on, whenever she wasn't with him, because I think now they considering, well, there could have been that happened, but still she's missing. She's some people think she's dead. Some people think she's captive. Somebody took her captive. I'm kind of leaning more toward maybe she is not taken captive, but she doesn't want to deal with the past. So she's trying to, that's what she did. She likely ran away from the past. She wanted to get away from the past. She knows that she made a mistake and letting him get too close to her. Something happened there, whether he did it something sexually afterwards or because of getting too close, or whether she just allowed herself to get that far with him at the moment, or whether they didn't have anything at all. She just decided she couldn't deal with it anymore, because what if her mom and dad thought and saw that video that came out about Chris and Fenwick and they'd never done anything to it, altered it because of her disappearance. If it came out that they saw her, and Tom might have seen Amy with a black man, whatever, but Tom probably would have been cool about it because she told him, I like who I like, maybe to a certain point. But I think Brad would have lost his shit. Excuse my language. I think he would have lost it. Oh no, you did not. Was that you with him? Dad, I'm so sorry. Amy, really? Something like that. She would have felt real bad about it. So instead of her feeling bad about it afterwards, off the ship with her family, she felt bad about it because, and then done something about it, which is probably likely. I'm not saying probably, likely ran away. Did that actually happen? Who knows? Don't know for sure. I'm just suggesting that's a possibility, a probability. I kind of, in a way, hope that's what, not that happened, but I hope something along that lines. Maybe she understands that I kind of let him get too close, or I let somebody get too close to me, or I had a relationship on there that I got kind of too involved with, whatever it was with Yellow, whatever else, and that I just didn't want my mom and dad to see, and I just felt bad about, so I figured I had to run away. But whenever I ran away from it, the ship left and I couldn't get back on, so I had to deal with what the situation was. And maybe whenever they were looking for her and somebody Brad, that was her trying to get like, okay, I messed up, but I need to get home now. Quit all this bull crap. Let's get home. And of course they couldn't find her, and maybe she got ingrained into Curacao or Barbados or Aruba or wherever else. These people who are looking like her, turning up here and there, maybe have heard the news of her disappearance and try to proclaim themselves as Amy Bradley. Who knows? But that's my thoughts on it. That's the way I feel about it. I know it's an hour and 15 minutes into this, but like I said, it's not to make Brad or the Bradleys look bad or whatever, but anybody could say that it might have been a little bit of incest on his part, groping her, and she felt bad about it, but I don't think that happened. Not for a minute. Anybody could say that Yellow did something with her sexually and she allowed it. That leads me to think along those lines, because she's allowing him to wrap his arms around her, and nobody really seems to think too much about that. They just think that she's been kidnapped, she's been abducted, but they don't think, well maybe Yellow was getting really close and everything, and he was being all weird and perverted, and so she decided, well, I'm going here, I'm going to relax, I'm going to think this through, I'm going to get some fresh air. Brad wants me to come to bed, but I know we got to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to stay out here on the balcony and think all this through. Okay, thought it through. 5:30 comes, she gets up, she walks out, probably to think about it some more. And almost 6 o'clock, I can't do this. I can't let my dad down or my family down, knowing I let a man grope me that way when I have a boyfriend, possible boyfriend, in Richmond. See what I'm saying? I mean, I hope you see where the connections are there. She probably felt really bad about it, and that's why she decided to take herself out of the equation, to take herself out of the picture, so to speak. With what? I don't know. But she decided to just, you know, just to go through with it, and just, well, that's what it's kind of leading to. She just decided, well, I can't do anything else about it, and so I'm going to go up here and get a drink with him and everything, and after that, I'm just going to go. I don't know what I'm going to do after that. That's probably what it was. She just like, I don't know what I'm going to do after that, and so that's what she did. Whether she did it with Yellow or what, I don't know. She disappeared somewhere or another. She allowed him to get her a drink or what have you, and she probably would say, hey, I got to get out of here. I can't let my mom and dad know what I did. I can't, because, with you, pretty much. Because if they see that video footage, the happy times or whatever on the cruise ship film or whatever, when they, when especially, a lot of people are going to see Amy Bradley, Ron and Iva's daughter, one of the best-selling insurance companies, wherever they work with. They're going to see their daughter, dancing with this guy who was supposed to be below decks. And that's probably another thing for him. He was supposed to be below decks. He was supposed to be in his area, the employee area, and below the deck, but he wasn't. It's going to show him dancing. That's probably one of the reasons, another reason why they deleted it, because he wasn't where he was supposed to be. And Amy was allowing herself to be handled by this dude, and she knew that it would reflect badly on her mom and dad, likely. So that's why she decided to take the matters into her own hands and just say, I can't handle this. I don't want my mom and dad to look bad. If they think something happened to me, I can't handle it. I'm sorry to put them through that, but I cannot have the whole world scrutinizing my parents because of something I did. So that's probably why, so like I said, it's a probability why she disappeared. Why she did what she did, and she decides, okay, well, I made a mistake with you, so let's just go ahead and get this done over with. Can you get me someplace? Can you hide me out? What can I do and kind of get me through Curacao here and help me out? And so likely that's probably what Yellow did. And then also on top of that, he's covering up his involvement of and all that stuff. That's probably why, even though he's lying about a lot of stuff, he's lying to cover himself and probably even her, because she's felt bad about it, and not want to face it. And so that's probably why you got the thing with the IP addresses in Barbados. They probably parted ways not long after, and she made her new life in Barbados, doing something other. She probably did some work, whether that was the AAV work. I don't think that was the case, but she probably did some work and made some money and everything, even without her cards and stuff. Her credit cards, debit cards, whatever it was, identification license, whatever. She gave up all her dog, her apartment, her car, her family, the love of her family, because she felt really bad about what happened with Yellow, and she didn't want her mom and dad to feel like, you know, oh my gosh, my daughter, what has she done? Why is she doing this kind of thing? And with her being there, so she couldn't face that humiliation. So she allowed him to probably get her off the ship somehow or another. Did that really happen? It could be a possibility, but nobody's really approaching it, you know? Nobody's really going on it. Nobody's saying, oh, this is what really did happen. But anyway, that's my thoughts on it. Hour and 20 minutes. Golly. Nothing's going on here. Marine traffic. No ships coming in. Maybe this one is. Silver Spirit. No, Bonaire. No ships coming in for a while. This one. Nope. Oh, that's coming in the Curacao. Where's that coming in? Oh, the Zeta 1. Yeah, probably going to be coming in early in the morning. But that's my thought. That doesn't mean my thoughts are correct. That doesn't mean what I'm saying is correct. That doesn't mean I'm going to try to tell you that what I'm saying is correct. It's just a thought. It's a probability of thoughts, probability, whatever you call it. It's a likelihood. Just like a likelihood is a person could have incest with their brother or sister, that's likely. It's probable. Does it actually happen? Yep, sure does. Does that mean it happened between Brad and Amy? Nope. Because I'm not going to say that, because I don't know that. It doesn't seem that Brad had that relationship with his sister. And that doesn't seem that is why would be a reason why that she left. But it does, in a way though, it does kind of make me think she didn't want to come to bed on that same sofa couch with him because she felt dirty, she felt disgusting, and the only way to deal with it is to allow Yellow to help her get off that ship because she didn't want to bear the humiliation. She didn't want to bear the humiliation of having her family see her dance with him. Say, look, man, you over here groping me, you did this and that and the other, and now I got to face the embarrassment of all my mom's insurance company and other insurance company winning this trip, watching this video, and be humiliated in front of my parents. So you better help me get out this ship, or you need to help me get out the ship. Something like that. That's probably what happened. Could have likely happened. That's what I'm trying to say. Did it actually happen? Who knows? Amy's not going to tell it, and evidently Yellow's not going to tell it. He's going to lie about it. He's going to say, yeah, just wasn't supposed much, you know, because you know, my dad said I was gay. I told my dad, and then my dad found out I was gay, and so they made me come on a trip. That just does not make sense. He's hiding something there. So anyway, if anything could have happened, it would probably likely would have been that. Because the evidence is there. We see it on the videos, Chris Fenwick's videos. He was all over her. And if he didn't want people to know that, then the Bradleys were going to be honest about it. They weren't going to hide anything. If they didn't want them to know that, if they wanted everybody to feel what they felt like, oh, you got to be against Yellow because he's the bad guy and all this, they wouldn't have added that. They were trying to be honest about it. But if they wanted to be all about Yellow and whatever he did wrong or whatever and this, that, and the other, they wouldn't have added. They would have told Netflix, don't add that, or they would have withheld that. You know, maybe they didn't understand what was going on. It was like, well, we wouldn't have been upset with her. We would have loved her, but you know, and they don't want to think that way. They'd probably like we don't want to think that way. You know, she wouldn't have embarrassed us from dancing with a yellow skin looking black guy or whatever. You know, but the dude's opened his mouth, boy. He's all over her. Dentil called him a creep or whatever and saying, yeah, that dude was creepy. Not unless she was talking about somebody else. It seems to me that, you know, it would have been an embarrassment slightly, and for her mostly, and so she would have felt bad about it. And so she would be like, look, I'll go up in the elevator with you. If you can get me out of here, fine. I can't go back to my parents and have them eventually see what was going on between us. I can't have them see that because, you know, I got everything I want and need back home. And I got a good man and boyfriend. We're kind of steady. We're not really dating right now, but we're steady. But so I can't do this, and I made a mistake. I messed up, and you made a mistake, and you messed up. So we got to take accountability for it. And I cannot bear to see my parents upset with me about this. I think she took that time sitting on that balcony thinking about that, and she might have took time. I know this is long. She might have took time looking over her family and saying, "I love y'all so much." But I gotta go, and that's why she didn't take anything. She didn't want nobody to see that she was getting off that ship. She probably thought to herself, or I'll probably come back in and rethink it. But as far as it looks, I gotta go. I gotta get off the ship, or I gotta do something other to get me out of here. And so she probably took a while staring at her family, right? Ron, at Iva and Brad, just kind of beholding them, cherishing them in her heart. Like I said, did that happen? Who knows? I don't know if that happened. And I don't think she just took off her shirt, threw it on the back of that chair, and just walked on out of there or whatever. But she probably was just like, I can't do this. I can't deal with it. I cannot know that I hurt them in that way, you know, and let that fella do what he did to me and everything. So I have to take accountability because I don't want to break my dad's heart. I don't want to break my mom's heart. I don't want to break my brother's heart. Well, Brad didn't seem to evidently mind it, I guess, if he even saw that, if it happened, then he probably felt like, hey, he's getting a little, I think he did say something other about him feeling that way. But I don't think she would have wanted people to see that video that would be coming out later because she obviously knew that the dude was Chris Fenwick or whoever it was filming them, whether it was Chris or anybody else. They were there filming them with the camera. They saw all of it. So she knew that would eventually be coming out. She knew that it was going to come out, that yellow was all over her. I'm sure she didn't want her mom and dad to see that and then be embarrassed and have to be there to be humiliated. So that's, like I said, that's likely. If anything, that's probably why she decided to disappear. If that was it, or if she got abducted, that's one other thing. But still, she would have, what they think about that now with her. That it's just all tell all right there. He's all over her. That should be obvious. It should be obvious that she would have felt bad about it later on. If you don't think that she would have felt bad about it, then you're crazy. Just because she likes who she likes and everything, as she told Tom, that doesn't mean that she would have not felt bad about it. Because she wouldn't have wanted herself to be a spectacle in front of her mom and dad's rival insurance companies whenever they saw that video. People are not thinking about that part of it, I don't think. Well, that's all I'm going to say on this, and I hope y'all enjoyed it. I hope you liked it and everything. And I'm going to get off here and think of what else I can put on the video. It's going to take a while for this sucker to upload. All right, y'all. God bless. Take care. We'll see you later. And don't think bad thoughts.